Back into the analyst desk. I had to hear that sound throughout the entire light show. But we don't have a long time to actually talk about this pregame. We're about to jump into the Champion Select. Predictions beforehand.
I mean, I think that Astralis want to pick themselves against something that really powers up in the mid game. They found their team fights very well. Getting the Jinx first pick, it seems like, as much as we've memed about it in the past, actually no one's got a great answer for it anymore. I think that it should be an easy first lock or just a straight ban from Dusty. I don't think they should risk it.
So in Denmark, we actually have a saying, and it basically goes, vi er røde, vi er hvide. And if you translate that, it basically translates to, we are red, we are white, we are Danish, Dynamite, which is why I think Astralis will win today against Dusty.
Okay, the bans are coming out hot. It is Xin Zhao alongside with Zeri on the side of Dusty, followed up by Caitlyn. So the two hypercarries are still available. And also the junglers for Viking, those early junglers are still available.
I mean, Viking has been such a power player. His Jarvan has been another one. I don't know if that would be first pick worthy from Astralis. It doesn't seem like junglers are of that level right now. I mean, I'm a big fan of picking junglers later into the draft because there are quite a lot of powerful junglers which can counterpick, sort of. But either way, we can see that actually both of our powerful ADCs have got through. Jinx first pick, easy.
Yeah, I was going to say as well, when you take away the Xin Zhao, it's most of the time not because you want to pick a jungler for yourself. It's more like, okay, we know they're going to have a rotation on 2. Viking has been quite fond of the Sin, and that's just why you take it away. And all the others, they're just standard. And I can respect the fact that they actually decide to take away the Thresh, because that also means we can go Lulu on 3 if that's what we want to do. They opt in for the backline dive. Hecarim is the champion we saw in our league before we started seeing them in the major leagues. Yeah. So this is still something we love to see, and we love backline against the likes of Jinx. But it does also allow Astralis to go for something like the disengaged Lulu for themselves with Thresh away now.
Okay, but then one of the things about Hecarim is that you need a dive buddy, really, especially into a Lulu alongside the Jinx. A lot of the time you're going to be running in and you're going to be dying for it. So the question is, you know, are you going to lock in something like a Vex? Backlund, I can't remember if he's actually played that champion. He's been more towards the LeBlanc, and the Vex Hecarim combo has been more of an X7 and more of an M&M combo. Are they practiced enough to pick it up against? I mean, even the Lee Sin kick is good disengage. It feels like Dusty need to pick a lot more to go in with it, and FGG's Rel was so good that it'd be great to lock in there.
That is something that I'm surprised it actually went through. We talked about this. We had this segment for FGG and the way he plays with Rel, and have a Lulu. Can you disengage that Rel when she jumps at you and stuns you?
If Vendel is good, yes, you can use your ultimate at the time she actually jumps in. But that's not only something you can get by the level 6 mark as well in that regard. So once again, as Nightmare mentioned, with a Hecarim, you want to dive buddy. There you go. You have one now with the Rel. Although you will still be pushed in the early game, it is a double range bot lane against only one and a melee. So therefore, the wave control should be in Astralis' favor, at least for the early game going, and then moving in to the second ban phase. Seems like the name of the game for them is just going to be mid laners. Quite often we see that pick on 4th.
I think that Astralis have already messed up. They didn't ban away Lilia. You're going to get a 3rd Horseman. They're going to get Horse Synergy. I mean, there's just too many legs.
You need 4 for the 4 Horsemen of the account.
It doesn't work.
Who do you bring?
I don't know, maybe if you just like really messed up Rek'Sai, it could be kind of a horse. Okay, no, that actually makes a lot more sense. This is why we have you here, honestly. I mean, there you go. Pick Plaid, pick Lily.
Great. I love to be here for the sake that I can just mention horse.
Yep.
Which is not really even a horse.
Where
are you picking up as the host here? What do you do to bring the conversation back in a normal flow?
About that, mid laners are still being banned away. Veigar is one to look out as well, appearing on the LCS, LEC as well. So this is a good pick, and it's been being removed. So mid laners, control-wise, it's a little bit standard now.
I love the Veigar and the Syndra bans out because they both punish low-range compositions. They're both really good disengage. The Scout of the Week, the Cage, would have done very well on that front. Now, Backlund has played a lot of Zoe. I haven't been that impressed. The hit rate on the skill shot hasn't been awesome, but the times when it has popped off, there was one game last week. I'm trying to remember which one.
It was the game with Vincent and Caitlyn as well. They had Alif on the Gragas. So
that was a really good one. It's been a bit hit and miss. Want to see a good game out of him. It's a very important game for both these teams, he was saying, and Backlund's given themselves a lot of responsibility.
Now, the response for the side of Astralis will most likely just be, I mean, they can go for one of the Orns if they'd like to as well for that disengage against, you know, the low-range carries. Could also look for that Camille instead. This can be dangerous. We've seen a lot of time where you fall behind as Camille and then you want to dive into the enemy backline and it just doesn't work out. And Carlson, just a little bit traditionally, haven't done all too well without resources on the map. So if they play the Jinx and Lulu as the kind of weak side and let them scale just in laning phase, they give Carlton resources and play a little form, that could be great.
So that's going to be the Poppy top, which is really good into stuff like the Lee Sin, the Camille, and the Ahri. And the saddest thing about this game now is that this is going to be an Everfrost Ahri because there are like three high damage champions, and people are going to start using that as more ammunition to post Everfrost on my timeline and say it's a good item. Don't build it on Ahri, go Ludens instead, it's a better item.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on what your game plan is as well, because now
just
you
build
have,
Ludens.
Because now you have a Jinx you also want to play for, having that Everfrost as the
I never
extra
play
little
for my
heal.
team.
Well, now, that's why you are sitting here, and they're up there.
Take this man away from me.
Violence at his best. And meanwhile, you have Astralis with a team that wants to go into the backside. Although on the other side, you do have the same. But Poppy is going to be the most relevant lane in the late game to protect.
I actually feel like Astralis can't really play for the backline dives. I think like Chris Berger is going to be the one that peels. I don't think they have the best team to peel it. Once again, Camille feels a bit awkward. Lee Sin, yes, it's into a Poppy, but you can still kick people away. So it's going to be interesting to see how they pilot this one.
As the violence is getting bigger on the desk, we also have violence inside of the rift. So with that in mind, we should pass it over to the caster's desk with Initialize and Treble Link.
As a Katarina main, there's a lot of violence on this one.
I know. I was going to say as well, don't listen to what Nymeris being said. That's what he says on broadcast. What he really likes on Ahri as a build is Liandry's into Lichbane. It's his absolute favourite build. Tweet about it to him. I promise you, it's exactly what you should build in solo queue. It's his recommendation every time.
Nah, I think Putrifier is his favourite
Putrifier,
one.
that's right. Putrifier on Ahri. I'm looking at his face right now.
Okay, he's doing like very violent moves.
That was a man who's...
I feel threatened.
I know, like genuinely quite angry. All right, we are actually onto the Rift and awful Ahri build aside.
So,
yes,
I'm really excited about this particular game because we have a lot of iconic champions for particular players. I'm looking at the side of Astralis, where they have yet to give us a very decisive win, but there was one thing that came back last week for them, and that was Chris Berg stepping up, the Nordics champion, on the Jinx as well, stepping up big time. Now, the other one on our screens is FGG on that rel, because he had one of the best support performances, arguably, on that champion.
nice idea there. Use the crash down to get over the wall into the back end of that jungle. Does force Carlson to stall on the hook shot. There'll be nothing like a tactical sweep to try and control the wave a little better, but does avoid being ganked there. And yes, I'm glad you brought up FGG, because I remember casting some of this guy's first games in the competitive scene around the UK, last year in the UK EL, and did just unreal things on the rel. It's the champion I have as synonymous with him. His angle for engages, his angle for backline access is just unmatched on that champion. And even if it's a little out of meta, I trust him to be a dangerous threat.
Now, here's the thing, right? If we want to talk drafts, if you will, and what they do. So I think right here, Astralis have a pretty decisive, not decisive, sorry. They have a pretty 1-3-1 composition that can turn into a team fight composition. You've got a bunch of backline access with the Ahri jumping in, with the Camille locking in a target. You've got Taxa on his infamous Lee Sin as well. And you can play the 1-3-1s split if you want, but you can also try to play the fights and pill for your Jinx together with the Lulu. On the other hand, Dusty have a much more calculated front to back. They've got the 3 tanks up front, they've got the maids with the burst, and they've also got the hyper carry in the likes of Aphelios. So if we're looking at team fights, if we're looking at setup, for Dusty, it's much easier to execute that composition. And why I'm saying this is just because Astralis have not showed us signs of being able to coordinate their moves very well on the map. So when they're reliant on making these individual plays to make their team fights work, this is where my question marks come. And I think I'm going to leave the question mark there for when we see later on fights to come and how Astralis actually execute them.
Yeah, because I think that's fair on the other side. For Dusty, their last week was a 2-0 week. versus Veneer and Bifrost of all people. They did a great job last week, really showing up. In fact, they're going to try and make it show up in the bot side. A flash forward from FGG forced to flash out of Chrisberg. Vikings here with a Ghost. He's got a Rampage to secure one more, gets a flash out of Wendell. It's all summoners, it's First Blood, and it's over to the bot lane. And FGG's Rel finds 2 with that.
Yet again, and you can see that this Astralis bot lane was actually scared. They're lacking combat summoners because Chrisberg is going for that cleanse to make sure he stays safe from the Fae coming in from the Hecarim, the Sleepy Trouble Bubble later on, Rel stun and all the CC that's coming through it as well. And they actually end up going down. All summoners blown for the side of Astralis. And honestly, First Blood on Hecarim is also extremely scary. Now, here's the problem here. Chrisberg and Wendell have mismanaged their wave. Their wave is pushing, but the jungle is on the top side of the map, so he cannot cover for them to shove in that wave. Dusty had absolute control on the bot side of the map, so Viking got a very, very, very easy gank on an Astralis that was somewhere between a rock and a hard place. And again, these are the things that we're talking about when Astralis mismanage things on the map. You know your jungle is going to be towards the top side of the map. That means you cannot have your wave state at that point where you're like, I really have to shove this, I really have to crush underneath the tower, I might die for it. Well, you did die for it, but the consequence is that you also lose all of your summoners, so now you have to be double careful.
And this is after a guy who we said...
It is on the
so
same
important to go into Flash, Graviton with the Binding Eclipse. Viking is straight back here. Chrisberg about to die for the second time in 4.5 minutes. Such good, consistent pressure from Dusty here.
Am I watching? Is this deja vu? Because Taxa was at the exact same spot last time this happened. We mentioned how Astralis do not have summoners, so they cannot push past halfway through their lane because they're going to get instantly punished. What does happen? They get instantly punished. I think this is like the past ghost from Astralis still haunting them. Their bot lane hasn't been the strongest, and when it has been, it's usually been Chrisberg showing up in these fights and showing the caliber of player he is. It's rough because we saw what happened when Haru played against Dan and Haru got ahead on the Hecarim. It is so difficult to fight when the opponent gets ahead, when he gets so tanky that your team cannot necessarily deal with him.
No, and this is not a Hecarim that's going in by himself. He's got FGG's Rel that we have highlighted and will continue to highlight. Again, that is still a lot of that danger. The 4 horsemen they were joking about on the desk, it stands true. You got Aleph on a Poppy as well, who can follow in the heroic charge. This is such a big deal, and the continued focus towards the bot lane, towards the engage ops, towards FGG's Rel is paying dividends right now for Dusty. Taxa is finally back around this bot side and might be around to help support another gank.
Because it's at the same exact position. They've built up their wave, they're trying to crush it underneath enemy tower, but the problem again is that they don't know where enemy jungler is, and Viking is yet again down the bot lane. Taxa is there, but he's a little bit too far away, and there's still no summoners.
There's no way out. He gets crashed down on, and the Ferromancy will do its work. It is just like cutting through butter with a hot knife. They land the Sonic Wave into the engagement, but they can't do it. Now the turnaround with the Ignite is here. FGG going in, but wait, it's Crest who's come roaming down, and they'll be able to trade this one back. Surely they've gone a little deep this time, and Astralis get 2 back.
All right. 3rd time's the charm, they say.
Literally.
3 kills for Viking and a charm from Crest to actually get 1 kill back for Astralis. Lovely pushed in his mid-wave, started roaming towards the bottom of the map. Again, Astralis, yes, you have Taxa. He's doing the golems. You don't know where Viking is. You've done the same thing. You've built up the wave. You're trying to crush it underneath enemy tower, but yet again, you do not have the safety. You do not have the summoner spells, and Viking is yet again to punish that play. Yes, Crest comes down to get 1 kill, but in the process, this is a 3-0 pony roaming the map. He's about 1 whole level ahead of Taxa, and at this point, what we're saying, this is so hard when a Hecarim gets ahead is because when you go straight towards that chem tank, it's so difficult in these mid-game fights when you don't have your entire mythic item, when you don't have penetration to go through his defenses. It's just so hard to take the Hecarim down.
And last week, we saw a lot of Dusty step up to back up Viking, who's been so critical to their earlier week wins. But this time, I think it is right. We turn our eyes back towards Viking, who is absolutely leading the
You know
charge.
what? I will agree to disagree because I think this is bot lane kingdom.
True.
This is FGG and Venza being like, look, these guys don't have summoners, repeat gang. They're doing the same thing with the wave, repeat gang. They're doing the same thing, and Alif?
Gets a knockout away from the Lee Sin, but Carlson still got him locked down to the Hextech ultimatum, and he murders the Poppy.
This is a roughie though, because it's a wave and a half crashed underneath Alif's tower, and yes, Viking is gonna soak even more experience and CS in his own, but Alif is going to lose on that one. So really good stuff right there from Taxa, and honestly, we've been meaning to talk about Taxa, but we've had so much action happen in the first 8 minutes. We've got 6 kills already, that we've kind of neglected that, and honestly, I think I've been a little bit critical with Taxa because he's generally had a very quiet split. For somebody whose favorite champion is the Lee Sin, he likes to make these early game plays, playing the volleyball and whatnot. I think he has been going a little bit under the radar, but right here he seems to be picking up 3 kill participation.
Clutch ward hop there as well. The mechanics are down, but it's still going to be the recovery of that battle. The Herald, I apologize, but there's a good charm in, and Crest gets that kill. So it's at least a 1 for the Herald trade. Nice follow-up there from the Ahri, who's now 2-0. Much, I'm sure, to Nymera's pleasure.
Really nice rotation from Astralis as well. They're pushing the bot wave, and then they transition their Jinx to the mid lane, so she stays safe, whilst the rest, full man from Astralis, are trying to go towards the Herald. They do not manage to get the Herald, though, so even though they are showing up in the fights, and Crest does show up and ends up taking the kills, a lot of objectives are being lost on the way. You do take the Rift Herald, yes, you give one kill back, but this is not much of a problem, because once you start opening the lanes, it's going to be much harder for Astralis to walk in, since all of them are squishies. So I think it is very important for Dusty to start taking these objectives like Rift Herald, start taking the towers, and depriving Astralis of a vision, and then catching them off guard in their own jungle. Whilst in the bot side of the map, Venza was pushing wave after wave after wave on his own, and also managed to bank on 2 tower platings.
I do want to call this out as well briefly. The FGG was in that Herald fight at level 4, a long ways behind some of these other members. That's part of the
Wendell
price.
is level 6.
Exactly, and that's partly because he's not been in lane. He's gone for some of these. He's had to back a couple times because he's taken damage going for the big plays, but it kind of hurt him there in terms of Rel isn't the tankiest champion in some ways, and got a little bit punished perhaps for the lack of experience that's the price of some of the plays he's been making.
Yeah, and I would like to say it is worth it at this point, because Ahri is a champion that you can very easily stop in the fight, because we have this type of team. You've got the Poppy, you can stop Ahri from coming in. You've got the Poppy, you can the Ahri out. Ahri dives in, you can insta-fear her with the Hecarim by ulting in. There's just so many safe zone abilities for Venza's Aphelios that I feel like, yeah, okay, give some kills to the Ahri, it's fine. We can deal with her later on, especially again, since you've got the Rift Herald, you can deprive Astralis of a bunch of the vision, and then just cuts them on the transition when they try to go for these dragons, when they try to go for these objectives, and just lock them down. And talking about locking people down, Chem Tank.
Yeah, it's in.
Already completed for Hecarim, and this is where we're like, okay, this becomes difficult, because once you start fighting for these dragons, who's going to take the Hecarim down? There's a lost chapter on the Ahri, who's supposedly fed. There's like a bunch of junkyard boot sale on Carlsen.
It's a polymorph though, because Wendell's here, but Viking's coming around to do some damage, and it's a bit of skirmishing just around this dragon spawn, because both teams look like they want to start it as Backland goes over the wall. And that was an attempt there from Crest to get on top of the Zoe. Can't quite make it happen. Neither team feel quite ready to start off the Dragon, but they are moving around.
Honestly, we've been saying that Astralis has really bad vision around objectives. Their vision for this one is absolutely fantastic. They've got 2 wards behind enemy lines. They've got the Scuttle Crab as well to know if the Dragon has been started. And even though Dusty are really looking forward and they're trying to get some sort of priority in the mid lane and the bot lane to try and turn it into that objective, they have so much vision from the side of Astralis that they can actually contest, because Lee Sin...
Wow. They're just going in this deep. That was an attempt by Viking to go over the wall.
It's becoming a little bit desperate, right? Again, we talked about this. They're trying to go for that dragon because all the lanes are pushing, but they cannot find an opening from the side of Astralis. And they're going to pop down the Rift Herald, take theirs to the tower that's going to be shared between 4 members right there, and possibly turn that, towards the dragon. It's just so difficult because playmakers in the mid game, in the early to mid game, like Ahri, like Lee Sin, can really hurt you if you play wrong against them. And again, I think the vision from Astralis has been really strong to keep them in the game so far.
0-0-4 right now on Taxa. 100% kill participation has managed to turn around those early plays from Dusty in the bot side, where both of these AD carries had a pretty stellar first week as well, so a lot of attention has gone towards the likes of Venza over the last few times. He went 11-2-6 on the Aphelios last week, 13-4-6 on the Kate. Massive improvements from earlier on in the split where he was dying a huge amount. And this kind of continued bot focus from both teams has led to this kind of scuffle for vision. It's still Dusty that secured that first dragon, despite maybe burning a couple ultimates in some failed attempts from Spix in the jungle. And they are, at least at this point, up a few hundred gold, even if it's still close.
Yeah, and I really liked also the over-aggression from Viking, because he knows he's ahead. He had the chem tech versus a bunch of like half items from the set of Astralis, so he knew he wasn't gonna go down that easily. Also having his summoners available and his ultimate. So yeah, you're gonna try to get advantage of what you have at this point, and what he had was the chem tank, and he tried to take advantage of that. But they took a bunch of turret platings again for Aphelios down the bot lane. He's already got his Gelfos. His Aphelios has been falling a little bit behind because FTG has been roaming so much on the map, so he's been punished when it comes to the CS department.
Sure.
But when it comes to neutral objectives, Dusty are on point. And when it comes to Venza losing because FTG is fighting for these neutral objectives, Dusty makes sure that they return the neutral objectives to Venza to feed him everything that he's missed so far.
Absolutely. My only question right now for Astralis is, yes, you've got some good options in your side lanes. Ari plus Lee Sin, or Lee Sin plus Camille can definitely pick up someone in the side lane pretty well. But come to these 5v5s, I think I probably agree with what Goldborg was saying on the desk, that actually Hecarim, Rel, plus this Poppy have such an easier time of getting to Chrisberg and making his life absolute hell in this game. I need to see how well Astralis can coordinate around these objectives the later this game goes to keep their Jinx alive.
I'll raise you my own reverse card. They don't even have to dive Chrisberg, because if you look, Carlson, Taxa, Cress, Wendell, they're all squishy. Whoever tries to dive in first and reach the backline, you just kill them. Sleepy Trouble Bubbles, a bunch of CC from Poppy, the W from Poppy, Fierce coming in, FTG with a bunch of CC in his kit as well, and the solo bowler from Carlson coming in the top lane. Okay.
Well, that's a good way to potentially stop it. You start getting some this Camille to a point where Poppy can't stay alive.
M&S needs to step up. We already have one solo bolo.
One solo bolo down, M&S on that 2.5 a game, so a little ways to go. But I appreciate Elif for trying to step up. Another man who has been playing, or rather not Elif, Carlson, rather, who has been a consistent member for Astralis, at least within the lane, and doing very well to start up this game.
And this time, we have another bot lane attempt. They're looking at this tower, it's going really low, it's past 40 minutes, which means it's much squishier, and they're pulling on the TP.
Here's the teleport, there's the Magnet Storm, it's onto Chrisberg, rooted in place with that attract and repel. Tower is gone. Chrisberg has flashed away the polymorph to keep Elif back. That will now be the attempted turnaround, but that's not the best onslaught of shadows I've ever seen. Gonna have to pull away, and the heal was popped by Venza, was not hit by the Super Mega Death Rocket, and Astralis...
He found Chrisberg!
Wait, where'd he go? Elif just gets in on the back. I was looking at the other side of the map. And Elif managed to pick up the kill. That is something at the end of it all. And Chrisberg falls for the 4th time this game. He is 100% of Dusty's kills right now.
That's not a good start to have, man. That's not a good start to have. Another time, Carlsen bullying on that Yodel up the top side of the map. Elif is trying to go for his shield, but once an opponent champion steps on the shield gets destroyed, and then he flashes for the Cho'Gath R right there, which is actually his Q on a much shorter cooldown to finish the deal. And again, because they see that this top lane has been falling for the side of Dusty chooses to pull the trigger towards the bot side of the map. They bring in the Poppy, FTG dives forward, they take every single summoner again from Astralis' bot lane, and what we didn't see is while Dusty was trying to retreat because they were getting flanked from the other side, Chrisberg with no mana walks over a wall, and Elif with a beautiful E locks him down. We take no prisoners.
None at all, and Jinx struggling a bit in this game. As we said, 100%.
We have a struggler, Captain.
Indeed. Fortunately, though, for Astralis, they've still got Crest at 2-0 on this Ari. Got the Everfrost, got that needlessly large rod in a pretty strong position. I'm sure Nightmare will be upset it's not the Ludens, but the setup is nice to help slow people down, and I don't mind it in this comp at all.
Actually, I agree with you. I'm much more like the Everfrost right here, because I think somebody's going to have to play defense for the set of Astralis. Taxa, you're all alone there. Woof.
Managed to buffer his way out there, but now Carlson going in, but it's still pretty deep. does force Dusty back away, but there's no wave really to play with right now. There is a Herald up, but Astralis don't feel comfortable going for that right now.
All right, so the Dragon is also coming up really shortly. I can't see the timer yet, but it will pop up anytime soon, I'm pretty sure.
There we go, 25 seconds.
And we need to look around at the setup because Cress has his teleport available. It's past 40 minutes, so he can channel it wherever he wants. He's pushing the top of the map. Nobody's replying. Cress has been getting free CS and he's been getting free experience, and he's one level above Buckland right now. And that is a problem because, yes, he does have the Everfrost and he has a Needless Large Rod. And why I'm mentioning the Everfrost here is because I think it's a very crucial item, especially who they're playing against. The Poppies, the FTG on the rail, the Hecarim diving in. Somebody needs to help Crispec's Jinx, because I don't think at this point the Lulu is going to be enough of a pill. Also, you need to make sure you keep people stunned and locked down in one place enough to be able to put down the damage, because they are so darn tanky.
And Astralis decided against competing when Crispec had no flash, had no cleanse. It was always going to be dangerous anyway. Instead, they take the opportunity to get some solo lane experience for Carlson and Cress. Taxa is hunting around in this bush and could try and get on top of Backland. Good stopwatch, immune to the Hextech ultimatum, but can they escape? It's a kick into the wall, flash forward. Taxa secures the kill. Still doing exceptionally well this game on the Lee Sin, one of those iconic champions.
Yeah, and he has been everywhere. We raised the question mark about Taxa. What can he do? He's been a little quiet the entire split, even in the early game champions. He doesn't seem to have much impact. Well, here, he's been in almost every single kill for Astralis, 5 out of 6. He's initiating the plays, he's finding the flanks, he's finding the kicks, and he's finding the dives, and he's also playing towards the strong side of the map, because we've mentioned over and over again, well, Carlson is left without many resources. It hasn't necessarily been his best games. Right here with the Camille, he's got a little bit of Taxa's attention. They punished the Poppy, and then Carlson has managed to snowball that effect. It is going to be top side of the map for Astralis versus bot side of the map. Can you reach Venza in the backline? Is Carlson going to be able to find these flanks to lock down Venza and kill him together with Crest and Taxa, or is that trio going to die first by getting locked down?
It's just the battle of the divers, right? And who can get to the right targets at the right time? It's Dusty. We're starting up the second Herald, and the gold is still pretty close. About 1,000 in the favor of Dusty, but that's not a huge amount at the 20-minute mark. Still very playable for both of these teams, and the right people for Astralis have got the damage right now to murder somebody, particularly in those sidelines. The Camille, the Ari, as we've said, doing very well. Hull Breaker complete for Carlson. That's one of those items that's becoming increasingly popular. And this Camille, very difficult for either of Dusty's silo laners to deal with, right?
And this is what we said at the start, right? We said that if Astralis do wish to do so, they have the 1-3-1 composition that they can play. They can have the Ara in the side lane, they have the Camille on the side lane, and luckily for them, like you mentioned, they both have gotten ahead in their lanes. They both can lane versus the Poppy and the Zoe pretty easily and just push down a lane until somebody comes to stop them. Now, this is the perfect timing to do so because Dusty is pushing in the mid lane. The only problem that he is, we mentioned, Lulu is not gonna be enough to save you from a 4-man dive. So they have to instantly recall Cress, get him back into the mid lane, especially since the Herald has been spawned, and probably get Taxa's attention too. So I really like what Dusty is doing here. They're like, cool, you want to split push us? We're going to put pressure on your Jinx. Because at the end of the day, it is going to be the Jinx versus the Aphelios. Which one of these two hypercarries is going to be able to kill each other's teams? Because when all is said and done, it always comes down to these two.
I'm also going to pull this out. I appreciate Cress here with the confidence. That's not a Shadow Flame second. That is a Death Cap that's coming in likely for
That's
this
where your
Ari
damage
right
coming from, man. You don't need the Ludens.
He's got the Dark Seal in inventory as well. There's a Medjai's potentially available. That's what I like to see. High damage, Ari. Okay, so about 1.5 minutes until this next dragon. That would be Soul Point for Dusty. We've said that maybe not the easiest front to play.
Infernal as well.
Yep, that's some people who've been pretty scary with Infernal. So anybody who's played against a Zoe with that knows how dangerous it is. Question is, what do Astralis want to do with this time? Do they want to continue the pressure on the side lanes? Are they even going to be positioned to fight the 5v5, do you think?
So the thing here is, the problem that Astralis are facing right now is that, we mentioned that the first Dragon, they had stellar vision. They had pink wards behind enemy lines, they had blue wards behind enemy lines, they had everything they needed for possible flank TPs. Right now, because you have two split pushes coming in on one side, Ari's gonna be on the other, great, they have teleports. Who's gonna go deep enough
Yeah.
to put down the wards for the Ari to join, for the Camille to find the correct flank. Taxa can walk a little bit in, but that's as far as he can do, and the wards are getting cleared straight away, which means now that Carlsen and Cress have to join the good old traditional way, which is through a lane.
And that's always pretty risky when your Lulu's a support as well. She doesn't have the easiest time face checking, and for both of these mid laners, Ari and the Zoe, you both want to play around vision, right? You want to be throwing charms, bubbles from out of vision.
Very crucially, I think Carlsen has found himself in a pretty good flank, and I don't expect him to be leaving that bush anytime soon before Dragon gets started. It's only going to be 20 seconds anyway. Astralis are going to look to push in that mid lane wave. I think they have spotted Carlsen. Maybe they're looking for Viking or maybe Buckland because he's pushed a little bit further forward. If they can kill Viking here, there's no smite.
Throw the ghost down, so that is a Hecarim who's
You don't want to engage on a Hecarim, yeah.
No. And you know, it does at least get the ghost out of Viking, which could be potentially pretty big now that the Infernal Drake has spawned.
Oh, look at the ward. It's been pinged at the red buff. It's been pinged. Poppy could be TPing there, and she is.
It is, but the dragon has been started down to 2,000 HP. In goes Viking, gets 3-man fit. It's gorgeous. FGG pulls it off again. You just can't stop it. Drowsy goes Carlsen. It is a sweet sleep of death that he finds. Venza finds a triple, and Dusty. What a glorious fight. 4 for none. They lose the Infernal, but who cares?
And when it's all said and done, baby, it's gonna be the Jinx versus the Aphelios. And the Aphelios has beautiful setup, so much CC in front of him, so many locked down targets for a large amount of time to be able to output all of that damage. And Venza comes out on top again. They are gonna lose the Dragon, but they didn't care about the Dragon to begin with. We mentioned that they have the strongest and easiest to execute front to back composition. Their carries are more fed. Their Aphelios is more fed than this Jinx. Therefore, he can output so much more damage. And honestly, props to Viking, props to FGG for a fantastic setup. And Dusty just do it again. Yeah. I mean, we mentioned that their front to back is beautiful. Viking locks in 3 members into a 4-man stun ultimate from FGG. Venza presses his R button, and it's just easy as that.
It was a thing of beauty. I said it before, I'll say it again. Who needs 4 horse for the apocalypse when 2 just fine? So much work to do, and you manage to pull the split pushes into the fight, and you get to win it.
Here's the question, right? Because Dusty have always had the better team fight composition, they've managed to grab all of these dragons and start stacking them, which meant that Astralis had to be pulled into this fight to stop the sole point from going down. And yes, they've managed it, but they've also put themselves on a 5,000 gold deficit. Now, we've mentioned how this composition from Astralis is made out of more playmaking champions. The Ari that has to land the skill shots, the Camille that has to find the correct target and the correct flank to delete someone. And that someone is either Buckland or Venzer. You don't have much choice. Now the problem here is, in this composition, Ari has 2 ways she can work. One, you either work like the CC bot for your Jinx and you keep people at bay while putting down the damage. 2, you choose to dive the backline together with Carlsen and you either die trying or you kill the opponent carries.
And the problem is right now for Astralis that you might be able to kill Venza, maybe, but the problem is
so tanky.
Exactly, everyone else is still doing enough at this point, and bluntly, Chrisberg, this carry that Astralis have been so reliant on to do a lion's share of the damage, honestly. I think he's something like 70% of the kill participation for this squad. He's so much of their damage percentage, about 30.5%, as they're going to try and get a kill in the side lane, though, and that's a pretty big moment. Good moment for Cress and Taxa to shut down a bit of this Baron shove.
I think they shut down a big part of this Baron shove because Buckland is all alone. He has no vision. Taxa with another great play, 6 out of 7 kill participation. But the most important thing is that Carlsen is unbothered in the top lane. And yes, if you have 2 pushing lanes for Dusty with Baron buffs available, then it becomes a problem. Carlsen has to back up his team. But if you kill one of these members, that means that your 4-man core cannot split through 2 lanes because then you can get picked up. But again, the Ari and the Lee Sin that want to catch you and want to be making these playmaking style plays towards whoever is alone in the side lane. They pull this off on Backland, and instantly Dusty has to call off the push.
They do, and all the while Carlsen got a tower on the top side, so this kind of maybe slightly different from what we've seen from Astralis, a more split map approach. still has some teeth to it right now for Astralis, and yes, Tax's Lee Sin, that has been a little bit quiet this split, but so historically good for him. Still dangerous in this game. 2 items, 2-0-4. Again, the only kill he wasn't involved with was Carlson's solo kill.
It's just so difficult to play though because everyone is so slippery. You definitely don't want to be engaged on a Heck Rim. You can't get onto Poppy because she has W, and whoever is within Poppy's range, you can stop Lee Sin from jumping onto. Buckland has both of his summoners, he also has his ultimate. FTG you definitely don't want to be engaging on because you'll get stunned in place. And then Venza is literally going to be playing from his fountain because everyone is in front of him. So it makes Taxer's job that much more difficult. And everyone else is at least on the top side of the map for Astralis.
And you're going to be forced into another 5v5 potentially here in 30 seconds because it's Infernal Drake.
Hear me out.
What do you do to convert these things
You
into a win?
give the soul away if you're Astralis and you're waiting for 3 items on your Jinx. I think if anything is going to save you at this point is 3 items on Jinx and maybe an Hourglass on your Ahri so she can survive a little bit longer in these fights and provide more CC and damage as you also have the death cap. I don't think if you're Astralis, you walk into the bot side map because it's just so point. Give them that. The Baron buff has also run out. Give them that soul point. Do not fight it right now. Wait for 3 items on your Jinx. Try again.
You're half an item away. Maybe I tend to agree with you. I think you can wait 5 minutes for that item breakpoint to be through. Chris Berger's struggled in this game, but the moment you hit 3 items, all past sins can be forgiven because your damage is online at that point. Dragon is started, Crest is around though, and so is Carlson on the flat. They can still think about doing this, but Tax has already been stunned. Dragon goes down, but can Astralis find a way to pincer? Venza flashes, Carlson gets in on top of him, but he's hammered out by Poppy. Keeper's Verdict does its job, Crest roots Viking in place, but now they have to go away, and that is no Ahri available. The fight is here, the charge comes through. It's a stopwatch, but it will not be enough for Carlson, maybe until he goes away. That's Crest dead on the side. It's going to be another 4 for none, and Astralis, you did not have to fight it. Tax is going to try and get the mid lane waves. He knows how devastating this would be, and it's a clean ace for Dusty. Side lanes, they struggle, but the fights have been clean.
Oh my god, again, I think Astralis just overstepped the boundaries right there. They also split up. They tried to pull the assassination technique right there with Carlson on the Camille and Ahri, Crest on Ahri, but it just didn't work. Dusty just have the better teamfight composition. Astralis did not yet have the item. We said give this up and try for soul, and it just didn't work. Astralis wanted to go for it, and now they will most likely lose the game for that.
And you called it. Look in the inventory for Chrisberg. 3 items now, but it's too late. It's too little. It's another kill to Venza. It's 100% kill participation for the rookie, for FGG on his Rel. And the Horsemen of the Apocalypse do it with half their number.
What can I say, man? We mentioned at the start, we're like, there's some very important champions, there's some very important players, and FGG's Rel was one of them.
Really?
His first appearance was monumental. This appearance right here, he was all over the map. He was getting very key engages. 3 and 4 man ultimates were absolutely fantastic. And again, in that last fight, even though Astralis did have the better setup to try and go for it in a pincher move with these champions that they had, they just lacked the items. You said it yourself. After this, everyone had items to buy the 3rd item. Just wait and go for soul.
Astralis 4-9, Dusty now to 7-6. Their climb up the table continues, and this show will continue after this break. Stick around and we'll see you in a few.
Welcome back after a stellar victory by Dusty versus Astralis. The winning spree of Astralis is over apparently, and Dusty are taking it away. 5th place right now for Dusty, looking at Vanir on 4th, just one game away. Who knows what's gonna happen until the end of the day? But I know Dusty are looking firm, are looking steady, and are looking for the playoffs. And now I'm looking for my interview guy. It is Viking on the Dusty part. Hello, Viking.
Hello, man.
Welcome back with the victory. How you feeling?
It feels good. It feels better than the start. We had a bad start, right? And but I kept. I told my team like we're way better than our 0-3 start, and now we're 7-6, so 7 wins, 4. Whatever losses we have, but less losses at least. I'm completely dizzy sometimes because I scream a lot in game. But yeah, no, I'm a bit dizzy.
You guys are looking stellar inside of the game. Obviously, there has been some changes, probably mentality-wise, strategies-wise as well. You're playing more champions. You don't look for the early game alone. You're looking for more as well. You took a lot of kills on this game. Was this intended for you, or was it like whoever grabs it takes it?
I mean, I could give 1 or 2 kills to Aphelios, but it's whatever. We will win. I was pretty confident we would win this game. We had good draft and I think I don't like when we go like full early game. It's good to have good early game, right? But it's more about getting a working comp and stuff like this. And I felt that at the start we had really bad drafts, so I myself put a lot of effort into talking with other good players like outside our team and just looking what like other people draft and stuff like this, because I felt our drafts, we had good drafts, but we had 1 or 2 bad drafts too. We actually lost a lot from gameplay as well, but draft is very important. Draft is extremely important. That's all I'm saying.
And this leads me to another question that I have. I know you put a lot of hours into League of Legends daily. You work a lot in League of Legends. Can you run me by how is a day for you, like a working day as a player in League of Legends?
I mean, I live here in France because I have a brand in France, and I could live with some really nice people here that are streamers. And I wake up, I scrim, maybe do some warm-up game, and then I just play solo queue. The last 2 weeks, I think I play 15 or 16 solo queue games per day on different accounts, and I watch LPL too, and I work out for me, which is not others, but I work out almost every day, 1 to 2 hours at the home gym we have here. But it's not the typical gamer. But for me, it's typical, and I just like to work out and buy Uber Eats and chill.
Man, that is one heck of a day. Like taking that every single day, it shows work, and it's also showing inside of the NLC. So congratulations on that one. Last question for you. It's a different one. We asked you, who would you bring into an island if it was deserted? Like, who was the player you would bring? You chose Aleph, and I want to tell you that Aleph said, I would pick anyone except Viking.
He's just trolling. He obviously loves me, so yeah.
So that's the takeaway. Obviously, I still want to know what's your most hated food. I'm going to use that, by the way. You can't type like, nobody's going to use that. I'm going to use it. So eventually I'll ask you for one and you'll have that answer ready. Okay, Viking?
Okay.
It's a deal, man. Thank you so much. And good job, by the way. It was a stellar game for you guys. Good luck.
Yeah. You too. Bye-bye.
And there we go. Dusty taking with the win, and Viking putting more than 50 games a day. Was that what he told us? That is way too much. How can you do that, by the way? Those are like 10-minute games, probably 15 FPF go next. This is the side of Dusty. They're taking a lot of victories and winnings. They're working on the team as they should. On the other side, though, Astralis, Cress, I know you are with me right now. There he is. Hello, Cress.
Hey.
Tough game, obviously, but I have to ask about the champion select. Obviously, allowing Rel to go into FGG was something that you guys were not expecting, or can you guide me through that one?
No, we expected it. Like, they played it a couple of times, so it wasn't like something surprising. We just didn't mind them having it, to be honest. And yeah.
Okay, then I want to talk about, obviously you had to prepare like an emergency plan if the bot lane didn't work because you guys were working for the Jinx picks, the hyper carry ADC. Did you guys have any plan if things fell through on the bot lane?
I mean, it's not like we planned that it would be going this way, so I don't know. I don't think you can say yes to that question. I mean, Carl had a pretty good game up in top, so yeah. I mean, we definitely had chances still to win this game, but especially on the third Drake, it was a bit of a disaster. So
Yes, that is something that I also wanted to ask you about that specific dragon. We were talking on the green room and we were debating, okay, you guys can actually look through the sidelines. You have the Camille, she was winning versus the Poppy on the 1v1. They can use it and not go for the objectives. What was the mentality to actually go for that third dragon?
I think the third Drake should, like, I mean, we got the Drake as well. It wasn't that was the biggest issue. I think maybe the fourth one you can discuss that we should maybe give and get some more gold. I'm not quite sure. Yeah, I didn't watch the game, but maybe it would have been better.
Obviously, you guys came out of a double victory on the previous week. You guys start now on a bit of a hickey. Let's call it a hickey. What are your plans for this week? Do you feel comfortable for the next day?
Yeah, I mean, it should be better this week. I don't know. Like the other last week, I was pretty sick and we still won. So I don't know. I believe.
Okay, but you're feeling better right now, right?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, okay. I gotta say, the team is looking better right now. So you guys are obviously working on the scrims as well. Do you feel that the team is going places that you want it to be?
Yeah. I mean, I would have liked for it to be faster, obviously, since we had to lose so many games. But we do still have some good days. Right now, it's just really inconsistent, I would say.
Is there a way to work around that until the playoffs? Because obviously it's right around the corner. Do you feel like the team can work around that until the playoffs?
I mean, we need to try, you know, like there's nothing else to do. So, yeah, I hope so.
Well, I hope so too, because I want to see Astralis at the top of their game. And thank you so much for the interview and good luck for the next day, man.
Thank you. Thank you.
Obviously, Astralis wants to take another victory. They want to step into the playoffs, but every single team on the NLC will be able to get to the playoffs if they work hard enough. And these games are going through the middle of the pack, so these points are really important for every single team. So this is why you cannot miss the next game. It's going to be Riddle versus Eminem. You cannot miss this one. It's going to be a banger, and I'll see you right after this break.